Hey guys, how's it going? I hope everyone is doing all right. Today we are going to be going over morphing SVGs. And what I mean by that is basically taking one SVG object like this circle and morphing it into this square, or more complicated, taking something like this text object and morphing it into the square, or vice versa. So I'm pretty excited to see what we can get done here. I'm just looking over at my stream window because it looks a little bit weird. Let me just resize this very quickly and see if that makes it a little bit better. You should be able to see like a pixelated border around here. Not sure if you can or not because it looks a little bit weird on my end. But anyways, that is what we will be doing. I've also moved my video down here so that you can hopefully see the whole kind of editor here. So before we start that, let me just talk about some things that I've done that are different. So first of all, you'll notice I can move around this whole scene and everything. I've basically added like a whole new viewport. So this is the preview window where you can like kind of play back your animation, see what it looks like and stuff. But then when you want to go and edit things, you can go into the editor view where you can kind of drag around, click stuff, drag that around, and sort of edit things. So one of the things that I've added that I was talking about wanting to get done in the last stream was the gizmos, which we clearly have now, and they do work. So like if I click onto this, and I have to be kind of accurate with it, I can drag up and down. If I click here, I can drag it left and right. And you'll notice I've also got this red square here. That's part of this move to animation specifically. If I click off, you'll notice that when I click there, you can kind of see that red dot appear. I may increase or change the UI a little bit, like maybe draw a dashed line. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that yet. From here to here to kind of show that this is the path it'll take, because you'll notice if I increase the time, we can see that's kind of how it goes, so that you can either move the start position or you can move the end position, and that kind of alters the path that it'll take. So that's just kind of the progress that I've made so far. I am quite happy with that. Let me just move that back over there. And yeah, in this episode, we're going to be doing that morphing. I've already gotten it kind of working, but it's not completely working. And it only works for objects that have the same number of vertices. So we're going to make this a little bit more complex and stuff. But we've got all that. And then if we have some time to at the end of it, right now, like say my editor's over here and everything, and I close out, when I reopen this whole thing, it doesn't quite go back to what I was at. So you'll see the camera zoomed in. It didn't save like my position and stuff. Those are just some things that I want to add. So serializing the data about like where your editor viewport was and stuff, so that when you sign back in, it'll take you back to where you were located. But yeah, that is the plan today. So pretty happy with where we're at, and I'm excited to get this next portion done. We'll see if it goes as planned or not. Shouldn't be too bad, but we will see. So how do we even go about beginning to morph two SVG objects? Well, basically, what I want to do is if we go into, I updated Visual Studio, so I'm just making sure I didn't break anything. But if we go into animation.cpp, we can go into here, and there should be, or actually no, if we go into svg.cpp, that's probably the better place. We can actually go ahead and find, I think it's replace animation or transform animation. Apply transformation. There's something in here that basically we can go, I'm going to go into the .h file because I've already coded some of this, but we're going to have to tweak a lot of it. And it is render interpolation. Okay, so that's what it is. Basically interpolating between some source object and some destination object, which we can kind of see here. Now, the difference is I am just going to remove this first of all. So we're going to work on anim objects. Trying to think if that's actually the way I want to do this. Let's do this. We'll take in two SVG objects, and then I'll kind of do extra interpolation from within the anim object, and we can go from there. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take in two SVG objects, and we are going to return a new SVG object star. So we're going to allocate some memory, create a whole new SVG object, which should interpolate between our source and our destination by value t. So if this is 0, we would get source. If this was 1, we would get dest. And if it's anything in between, we should get some sort of morph between these two objects, which is what this result should be. So that's the plan. Let's see if we can go ahead and actually implement it. First step is going to go down into here, and we're going to go render interpolation, because I've already got this kind of sorted out for the most part. So we've got this, and then we have this render 2D interpolation, which is actually right down here. I might just drag this all up there too, because it really doesn't matter that much. Let's just check through this real quick. Yeah, okay, so we'll leave it kind of the way it is right now. So basically what I'm going to do though is I'm just going to change this up. We're going to go render 2D interpolation between source and dest, and we're going to return this from here. And then we're just going to change up the definition of this. In my opinion, it was doing a little bit too much there, and I would rather it doing too little than too much. And this is kind of what I'm wondering. I don't even think we really need to have a separate function for this. I originally did that because I had 2D and 3D separated, but since that is no longer a requirement, I think I'm going to go up here, and we are just going to do it like this. Okay, so I'll have this, and then I'll return some new object. So the basic plan is, we're gonna have to change a lot of this up. Basic plan is, and actually this shouldn't even be called render interpolation, this should just be called interpolate. So we just want to interpolate between two SVG objects. I think that's a bit clearer. So let's just rename that to make our intentions clear. So first order of business, SVG object star, result is gonna be some SVG object. So we want to allocate that memory, and we are going to return this after everything is all said and done. So once we go down here, we will return SVG, or I guess just res, right? And we may have like an error case here, some sort of label where like you go to error case. I guess that would actually be after here, where basically we would say free res and then return null pointer. We'll see if this is actually necessary, because I don't know, maybe it fails in the middle of it. Check if this is necessary. We'll revisit this after we implement it and see if we actually need to do this or not. Now, before I go ahead and implement this, let's clean up a little bit here, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the UI settled for this, because it's going to be easier if we have a UI to operate off of, and then I can go in here, kind of write out the implementation. It should all just work out. Fingers crossed, that's what's supposed to happen, but we'll see. So first thing, we are no longer going to interpolate fill colors in here. Right now, my SVG object representation doesn't have a concept of colors that is defined outside of it. I may want to change that, except I don't know if I do. I might want to change that at some point. We'll have to revisit this. Right now, what an SVG object looks like is has contour, which is poorly named. I'll have to fix that eventually too. Curve, which is even more poorly named. I mean, it kind of makes sense here. So a contour is a list of curves, and a curve is basically just a Bezier 3, Bezier 2, or a line. And those are the three types of curves. And so this just defines how the SVG moves around its path. And then it also has a few different things, like we can calculate a bounding box for it, we can calculate the approximate perimeter, we can normalize it, all sorts of things. So it's kind of got a lot of different stuff in there. We're not going to worry about any of that for now. We will eventually. But there's no concept of colors, which is why we're removing this. That is a concept that's kind of contained on the parent. And I think that does make sense. An SVG path, so maybe what I should say is we should rename this SVG path, because this is what this really is. And then the object should probably contain color information and stuff. But as of right now, that's not how it works. So we're just going to go ahead, remove all this stuff. Yeah, and we're going to remove that. We are not interpolating any positions either. We are not interpolating any rotations. This is all going to be encapsulated within the parent. Whoever contains this will do all that, and it should all just work out. Dark Rogue, how's it going? Happy Friday. Good to see you. We are interpolating SVGs today, or morphing SVGs is the plan. Okay, so we've got transformations. We do not have to worry about this. This will be applied at a different time. Stroke width, once again, Not worrying about that. This, okay, here we go. So this is where it gets interesting. Basically, what we have to do is we have to go through and map from one curve to another curve. And we'll kind of see how this goes. Sounds like hard but fun and useful stuff. Yes, that is, I agree. It is hard, but it is fun and useful. And hopefully it won't be too bad. I think before we get into the meat of this, what we're going to actually do is go ahead and add the UI for this, which is broken at the moment because lots of stuff have happened in between. So let's go back into here real quickly and add some extra stuff. By the way, there will be no stream tomorrow too, in case that wasn't clear. So that is a thing too. Okay, so where are my, okay, my animations are down here. You can kind of see them in stream. Let me move my video over just a little bit more because that will make it easier to see stuff. I need to really clean up my stream settings and everything because stuff is kind of messed up. Okay, so you should be able to see stuff that's over here doesn't really matter, which is why I moved the camera. Okay, so basically what we're working on is this replacement transform. And first of all, if we look up here, this needs to go. So first of all, we don't want to add animation objects. What I basically want to have is like the object that you're replacing and then the object it's going towards. So basically we'll drag in like a square, turns into that blue square, and then that'll kind of do the replacement. So yeah. And I'm finally streaming at a great time. You're awake and almost off work. That's good. This probably isn't the normal time, unfortunately. It's probably going to be more like 8 in the morning on Saturdays most of the times. I'm running a 5K tomorrow, which is why I'm streaming tonight. So that's what I've been doing Saturday mornings as well as running, which is why I have not been streaming. So, and I'm not a runner, so this is all new to me and very difficult. We'll see how it goes. Let's see though. So basically what I want to do, like I was saying, is kind of go into here. And when we pop up this replacement transform, first of all, I don't want to see this anim objects. Congrats on that. Thanks. Hopefully it'll go good. I'm going to be dead tomorrow. That's for sure. Basically, we want to not display that and then have 2 drag drop targets where we can drag and drop the source object and the destination object. So let's go ahead and do that. And where do we do that? We do it in the poorly named timeline.cpp. I need to fix the names of all of these things. So we have handle animation inspector inside of here, which would be much better in a file called inspector, which is what this is all is. So yeah, got to fix that. But anyways, we get animation. So one thing we want to do is I think I'm basically gonna have, so this is where we have that kind of anim object. We'll just have like a bool display anim objects equals, and I guess what I'll do, just to make this simple, is we'll just do this. We'll say if animation should display anim objects, and this will kind of be our flag. So let's see. Yes. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go into here and we're going to add a function, which very simply we'll just say should display anim objects. And this will basically tell us whether or not this animation can act on multiple objects at once, which in this case, I don't want it to. This is inside right below Gizmo. So animation on Gizmo. So this is kind of how I separate everything. I like putting stuff here as opposed to hoisting it because when I change things, I know I can just go into here. And then when I add a new animation type or something, it's all one place, which is kind of nice. So basically, which ones, so these ones, create, uncreate, fade in, fade out, write in text, transform, animate stroke color. Yeah, so, well, okay. Trying to decide which ones should, I guess technically all of these should return true. Yeah, we can remove that. And I guess technically this one can too. So these are all the animations that like you can act on multiple objects at once. So this one, definitely not. So this is kind of what we want to do. And then we'll just return false. Actually, we should probably return true by default. And where is our replacement transform? Case anim type v1 replacement. What did I call it? Transform? Oh, it's just called transform. Okay. So that's actually one that we want to move down to here. Cool. So now basically what's going to happen is we should not see that kind of drop down for our replacement transform animation. Let's just verify this is working, and then we can keep going and add the input fields for the other portion of this, and then we should basically be good. Okay, so is adding anim object is undefined. Why is that undefined now? How was it defined before if it's not defined now? That's weird. Oh yeah, it's right here. Static bool is adding anim object. Yeah, that's should be fine. Ah, that should, I don't know how this was working before. I think I might have just moved that out. Let me just double check, make sure that's right. Okay, yeah, that all looks right. Weird. I don't know how that got moved. I must have added a bracket somewhere I shouldn't have. Okay, so we go back in here. Yes, that's good. So now if I click here, okay, good. So we don't have that drop down up there, but for create animation, we do want to be able to add multiple objects. So we do get that drop down for create, but for replacement, it's not there because it's going to behave a little bit differently. So let's go down. We should have something down here now too. We basically have those things. Okay. And here we go. For transform, we want to do handle transform animation, and we'll pass it the animation, and we will just call break. Okay, let's go to handle move to. Handle move to. Okay, we'll put that. Animation star, right? And then handle move to, let's go down to where that's defined. Put this right above that. Okay, so how does the handle move to work? We basically want to kind of do the same thing we were doing up here. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. We basically want to do kind of the same thing. We want to drag source. Yes, okay, so we've got this drag source thing. This is basically what we want, and I'm gonna go ahead, copy all this. Perhaps I should create a helper function for this, which I will probably do in a second. Let's just see how this works out. So we've got drag object here. This is a anim drag drop target or drop target. We give it that. We say begin drag drop target. We say what we're accepting. Let's just see how this all works. Yeah, I'm kind of, It's different enough here where I don't really want to, sorry, this changed. I was wondering what was going on there. It's different enough that I don't really want to make a function for this. I think I do want to just copy paste this code. We'll think about this. To do, this code is duplicated. Consider making a function. And the reason I don't really want to do that is because, yeah, because this is going to be different. We don't really need this. And we're going to have two of these. So okay. This is, let's call this anim drop target. Well, this is replacement transform source target, right? So we're gonna have that, and then we are probably gonna do this twice. So let me just do this real quickly. I just wanna get the UI up there, and then we can kinda deduplicate stuff in a minute. So let's copy that. Do the same thing, except this one is gonna be our replacement transform dest target. So our destination, same thing here. And I'm going to have to change this up a bit too. This is not going to, so this will only be this if a certain thing, okay, yeah. So we're going to have to change some things up. Basically, what we want to do is, first of all, go into animation.h. Let's go to our transform animation, which right now I don't think takes any data, but we want it to. Yeah, I don't think there is any sort of transform. So we have animation here, right? What I want to do is like replacement transform data. This is kind of a mouthful, so I'm wondering if I want to call it that, but we'll call it this. So this is replacement transform, and then this will simply contain two things. int32, this is going to be our source anim object ID, and then int32 our destination anim object ID, right? So that's basically all we need. And now that we have this, we should be able to go back into here. And we can say, these are the defaults. Trying to think of how I want to do this. Okay, so these are the defaults. Basically what we want to do is we want to say anim object star source object equals animation manager, get anim object, not the name, get object, and this is going to be const, so we're going to fix that in just a second. We're going to need to pass in our animation manager data and animation as replacement transform dot source. Okay. Yes. So we want to do this, and we're going to have to pass that in. Let's just fix this. That's there, handle transform. Okay, we will fix this. And there we go. Okay, so we've got that, got this. And then basically what we want to do is we want to use the dummy text if this is null, otherwise we use something else. So we'll just say if source object equals null pointer, we'll use the dummy text, otherwise we will draw, whoops. Come on here. So we do that. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll do basically the same thing, except we will use, instead of this, we'll use our source object's name. And our source object's name length. Okay, cool. So that's basically how we want this to go. And we'll do the same thing for our destination object, which we would do right here instead of this. We'll do that. And then we'll just change this to destination target and destination target. Okay, so same thing here, except this is the dest object, and we want to do dest, and we'll just say if that's null pointer, otherwise we'll use it here. Okay, so now we should have two drop targets for our source object and our destination object. And if we drag and drop something in here, it should change those here. Okay, so yeah. So I'm just gonna change this up a little bit. So basically we want, this is our object payload ID. Okay, yes. So we want that anim object ID is basically what we want. And what we'll say is we'll say animation. This is the destination, I guess. As dot or replacement transform equals obj payload, and we'll give it that ID. Okay, so if we drop something into this drop target, we set it appropriately, and we'll do the same thing here. Change this up a little bit, and this will be source, and that should be good. Okay, cool. So I hope you can see too why I didn't want to abstract this into a function. I don't quite know where the abstraction lies yet. It's different enough that I can't quite just take that out of there. So I'll have to think on that a little bit. But this should do what we want, basically. Let's just check and see if it works. I should probably add labels to these too, which I will do in just a second. So for now though, if we click on here, okay, cool. So you see we get this drag object here, drag object here. Cool. So that part's at least working. Next thing I want to do though real quickly is we want to actually add a label. So this one will be source. And then this one, and everything after the hashtag gets ignored by IMGUI. Destination. Does that make sense? Wait a second. Source, I might call this replacement object. Or replace to. I don't know. I might tweak the name, the verbiage there. But basically, if we go back into here, let's see if this works out. Wrong one. Okay, so click here. I have this. Okay, that says source. We do not get our destination. Oh, that's because I'm an idiot. That should say source as well. And then down here, we'll say replace to. And we'll do the same thing here. Okay. That's what we want. Let's try that now. And the UI is just about there. So we can kind of move on to the more interesting stuff. Okay, so we have source and then we have replace to. So basically what I want to be able to do is say like, hey, oh, and I'm going to have to fix delete too. First of all, let's move this stuff over to here. Right? Let me zoom this out just a little bit. Wrong way. I have to swap those buttons, I just realized. Okay, so let's move this over to here. So basically, when this goes through, what I want to happen is I want to replace our red square with our blue square. So what I want to end up happening is, and that is interesting that I clicked, oh, it's because we have this selected. Okay. I was going to say it's interesting that that gizmo popped up, but it popped up because I had blue square clicked here. So it's kind of showing me it's gizmos. But anyways, what I want to happen is as that goes through, this morphs into this, which in this case, this morphing into this is just going to look like it shifting and changing colors. But eventually, maybe we should do something more interesting. Instead of the red square, let's do our yellow circle. So yeah, so this yellow circle should morph into that blue square. So that's basically what we want to happen. Let's see if we can achieve that. Now, first of all, we're going to have to do one more thing because this is not going to save. If we close out of that and launch this back up, and actually launch it. We do not have it saved. It says drag object here. It kind of deleted all that because I need to modify our serialization very quickly. So if we go back into animation, let's go to serialize. That's what we want. Okay, cool. So when we go to serialize our transform, which is right here right now, currently it does a no op. Basically what we want to do is we probably want to call, yeah, we'll say animation, or I guess this as dot replacement transform dot serialize, and then we'll give it our memory. And I believe that should be it. And then that should just write into that memory and kind of serialize it. So let's go up here. We will add one more function here. Say void serialize. This takes in a raw memory, and it is a const function, should not modify it. We go back into here. Let's go to, do we have any sort of things like this? No. Okay, so I guess I'll put it right below this. Makes as much sense as anywhere else, I guess. Yeah, I'll just do that for now. I need to figure out how to organize these files better. Anyways, so let's call this, we have a void replacement transform data serialize. It takes in raw memory. And it is const, so we do all that. And basically what we want to do is we just want to kind of write out what it's serializing so that I can keep track of this in the future. It's helpful. Very helpful, actually. So this is probably my favorite way to serialize stuff now, I guess. So basically what we'll have is source object ID, and then we will have dest object ID. And these are both int32s. So let's go ahead and serialize those real quickly, and then we'll add a deserialize method, and we should be good. So to serialize it, we literally just do memory.write this source object ID, and memory.write this dest object ID. That's it. Easy. I used to try to write all sorts of reflection hacks to get serialization and deserialization done, because I was like, oh, I never want to have to write code like this. That'd be horrible, blah, blah, blah. Well, 2 lines of code. I have changed my mind. I think it's worth it to write the 2 lines of code rather than go through all the trouble I would go through to avoid having to write those 2 lines of code. And this is definitely more efficient than reflection and all that stuff to serialize and deserialize. No need for complex things. You can literally just do this. It's funny how you change as you grow. Okay, so we also want to deserialize, which is get taken a raw memory ref, and we can't make that const, unfortunately, because we change our pointer inside of where we're kind of reading from and stuff. So unfortunately, we can't do that, but that should be all we need. And this will just return object. So we'll do this. And I kind of messed that up a little bit there, but no big deal. Okay, so we'll do that. Replacement transform data res, and we will say memory.read into our res.source, memory.read into dest, and then we'll return our res. Very easy, nothing complicated here, and let's just copy that so that we have our object definition as well. Okay, so with this in place, we now have serialization, deserialization. We do need to add this to our deserialize method as well, though. So, but we're going to wait a second. We're not going to do that quite immediately. So right here, we're going to move this down. What I want to do is I want to say res.as.replacement transform equals that deserialize memory. Right, I want to do that, but I don't quite yet because we don't have it saved, so it'll just break our code. So first I'm going to go ahead and do this. Yeah, I'll do this. Well, okay, I have to do one more thing. So when we serialize the first time, I probably want to serialize the correct values. Right now they're going to be incorrect. So let's go back where I had that defined. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was up here. As you can see, this file is getting out of control. Serialize. And what was this? This was replacement transform data. There we go. Okay. I just want to change these very quickly. Int 32 temp equals int 32 max, which is null. So instead of doing this, what did I just do? That's not what I want to do. Instead of doing this, what I'm going to do is write out these, because these are our null values. That way we get the correct values. So just do that first. I'll run this, it'll save, overwrite my save file, and then I will go ahead, relaunch this, and then it should be able to read the correct values in and save. So that's kind of what this is all about. Whenever you add new data, you kind of have to do some finagling to get to go correctly. Right, okay, so if I click into here, it's null. I go do that. We do this. Now it'll save the correct values, but I also want to fix our deserialize. Yep, this thing. We actually want to do that now, which means I want to uncomment that. So now when I load it back in, nothing should change. But when I actually put stuff in there, it should change. So should be working now, right? So nothing broke, which is good. But now I want to say, hey, let's do the yellow circle into our blue square. And if I exit and relaunch this, we should have that data saved now. And we have that data saved now. Cool. Okay. So we've got serialization there. That's the first step. Now, and we have it all hooked up. And now we should be able to just do the morphing. So let's do the SVG morphing, and then we'll kind of hook up the back end to the front end, and we should be able to see this thing work. And contrary to what you might think, morphing a circle to a square is actually one of the easier points, because if we take a look at our debug, and let's actually turn on debug drawing so we can kind of see this stuff a little bit better. So if I do my yellow circle and put on our debug boxes and our curves boxes, and I put the same thing on for our square, what you'll notice is we kind of see these boxes. This is 4 boxes. And so what that's telling us is there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices here. So basically this is just Bezier curves. So it actually makes it really easy to morph these two, because I can treat this as morphing two Bezier curves into each other instead of having to do anything complicated. And since there's the same number of points, this has 4 points, this has 4 points, I don't have to do anything complicated. The more complicated thing is definitely going to be trying to morph this, something like this, into a square, because this has way more vertices than this square does. And so it's a little bit tricky to know exactly how I should morph those, like which objects. Yeah. So there's going to be some complications we're going to have to go through, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Anyway, so let's go back into svg.cpp. Now we're going to go back here and actually do this in earnest. So I think this is where we commented everything. Okay. So how do we morph one SVG object to another object? First of all, we have to find out which object has more vertices. And then we have to add vertices to the old object to match the number of vertices in the new object. And then we have to morph all those points into each other or interpolate between each of those points. And that should be it. One interesting thing that we can, first of all, note is Bezier 3 is the most complicated curve, but we can represent a Bezier 2 and a line all with a Bezier 3. So what that means is if we treat every curve, even the straight lines and the Bezier 2s, as Bezier 3s, then this becomes a little bit simpler, because then we just have a P1, P2, P3 to interpolate between for all of our curves. So first thing to note is if we have a line or a Bezier 2, what we actually want to do is upgrade those to a Bezier 3 and make sure that we're interpolating between Bezier 3s only. Second thing to note is how do we add vertices? And I guess that's kind of the harder thing. So let's draw this out a little bit. I haven't drawn in a long time, but this definitely warrants a little bit of drawing. So let's go over here. And you can ignore that topic because that topic is completely wrong. Let me just erase this stuff. So let's say that I've got a star. And you're going to have to deal with my horribly drawn star. We'll see how this turns out. So that's that. We'll go there. There. Hopefully this will turn into a star. Okay, right? So we've got a star here. Yeah, a very ugly star here. Okay. So we've got that, and then we want to morph that into a circle. And we're actually going to represent this circle using 3 points, 4 points. I need to actually space these out evenly. Or a little bit more evenly than I did there. Okay, right? So we have a circle. Let's try this again. Can I get a circle? There we go. That's close enough to a circle. Okay. And the interesting about the circle is we just have extra curves here, which kind of denote how this should curve, right? So these are Bezier curves, and this basically just goes here. Technically, we have 2 points because these are all Bezier 3s. So we have 4 points, right? And this denotes how this internal curve goes. So what we need to figure out is how do we split this up? So we have 4 vertices here. And what we want to end up with, or we have 4 curves here, I guess is more kind of apt. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 curves, right? And this one has 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically what we want to do is we want to say, since this one has more, we want to just add vertices here instead of trying to take away here, because that's always easier. And then we can morph 1 to 1. So where do we add these vertices? We basically need to say, and this is where it gets kind of hard. Does it or does it not? I don't know. I'm trying to think. So basically what we need to say is we need to split these up. So how many times does 10 go into 4? If we do 10 over 4, that's 2 and some change, right? We've got 2 with 2 left over. So basically what that means is we can split each of these curves up into 2 curves at least. That will get us to 8. And then we need to add 2 more somewhere. So those last 2, I'm trying to think of. Instead of doing it this way, actually, let's just do this. So we know we want 10 curves here. We know we have 4 curves here. Instead of trying to split it up, let's just start from here, which is our first curve. And then let's just go, okay, so we need 10. So let's go like right about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay. 9, 10. Let's imagine that was perfect first time. So basically what we want to do is we want to say, okay, let's have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's imagine these are perfectly spaced out. We can actually kind of do this a little bit easier. Because basically what we're saying is let's just interpolate, and we'll do equal interpolations except around our whole curve instead of portions of our curve. And I already have code to do that. So this part's actually not going to be as hard. The hard part is going to be basically we have this starting point and our interpolation value is actually really easy too now, right? So if we take t, which is going to be our interpolation value, we want to break this up into 10. So basically our t value is going to be 1/10, which should get us 10 curves, which should match this guy, right? So then they'll have the same number of contours. And so basically we'll have t start at 0. And then we'll say, okay, let's break it up. And if we go and we're in between one curve, we'll just break that curve up into 2 Bezier curves, which I have code that should be able to do that. But then the hard part kind of is what happens right here, right? So we are between 2 curves. And so that one's a little bit more difficult. And I think what we're going to say is if we come across one where it's like, okay, we'd actually have to break this up into 2 curves, then I guess what I'm going to do, which isn't very nice, but it'll be a little bit easier. I don't know. Yeah, because I think what we'd have to do is just say, okay, let's do this here. And then this will be the first part. And then we'll just have this be the second part. And that way, instead of stopping here, this now becomes this whole point. So it means we'll have some lopsided. It won't be broken up perfectly even, but it will break it up for the most part evenly. And then this way we don't have to worry about how to split up or how to merge 2 curves together. We just have to worry about splitting curves, which we do know how to do. We don't know how to merge 2 curves, but we do know how to split. So I think this is kind of my general idea. Let's see if we can actually do this. And let me just adjust that up a little bit. Okay, so according to that drawing, first order of business, we need to find out which object has less contours and which one has more contours, which is sort of what I was doing here. So we'll just do source dest. So source, and this one would be dest. Okay, right? Yes. Okay. So then more contours would be the opposite of that, which is source, dest, and then same thing here, source and dest. Okay, so I had this whole number contours to skip thing. We're going to ignore this because technically I don't need to do that now. So actually, I think I'm going to just ignore all of this now, and we're going to go and do something new. So first order of business. Basically what I want to do is I want to make less contours equal to more contours, right? We want to have the same number. So actually, let's do this. Int number contours, target number of contours, which is how much we want to have this one be at the end result, right? So we'll do that. Actually, let's call this a float because we're going to have to be doing a lot of floating point math here. And then we'll just do that as more contours, number contours, right? And once again, a contour is just a curve. I think it is just a curve, right? It's a list of curves. Oh, okay. This is this is a little bit more complicated then. I might have spoken too soon before. So SVGs are a little bit more complicated because there's a little bit more that goes into it than what I was doing before. There's the whole concept of like a subpath. And I should probably have kept that other code. So let's go and take that code back very quickly. Okay. So number of contours to skip. So basically what happens if we have different number of subpaths, which can happen, we're just going to skip certain subpaths and those are just going to fade out. At least I think that's probably going to be the best way to go about it. We'll see if we have to change that. Okay, so number of contours to skip. Just trying to think of how this worked before. So basically this would go through and it would just go get the first contour, get the second contour, and then it would start interpolating between them. Yeah. Less curves, more curves. Okay, so yeah, this gets the list of curves between each. Goes through. We don't need to do this anymore. Let's just get rid of all this stuff. Get rid of that. And then we're going to change this up. Okay, yeah. And we're going to change this up too. Actually, we might need to keep that. I'll think about it in just a second. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to say Svg Begin. Actually, I don't want to do that. We're going to do that inside of here. Svg Begin Contour, and this will be with our results. Ooh, and first point. Okay, so that's also kind of, we'll get that in a minute. I believe that's right here. Okay, so this is what we want. So we're gonna do this, and this is gonna be interp p0. So first of all, I'm gonna just like use straight up the code I had here before. We're gonna see if this works, and then I'm gonna modify it because it's gonna have to be modified slightly. So let's do that. So Svg Begin Contour. Okay, and then we want to do Svg Bezier 3 2. And we're gigabit res. Control 0 is interpolated P1, interpolated P2. Actually, this is wrong. And interpolated P3. I'll fix that in a minute, though. And absolute is true. Okay. Let's just do this. Interpolated P0. And then we'll do that, just so that that's defined. Okay. And I'll initialize this to 0, 2, just in case. Okay, so basically what this is going to do is it's just going to straight up interpolate between them if they all have the exact same number of curves and everything. What's wrong with this too? Oh, this is a GLM vec2. I got you. So basically I just need to do that. Let's just do this for now, and then I'll fix everything when we start modifying some stuff. I just want to get a basic version working though. Once I'm confirmed basic version is working, we can do more. So get that and that. Okay. Oh, no. Okay, so this was right. We don't want to do that. Let me just fix this up again then. Get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so we've got all this. Let's get rid of this. Now we can interpolate between them. Let's just change this to and fix this. I think this is already fixed. Yeah, so we have interpolate now. Okay, cool. So let's go into animation manager, or actually animation.cpp. Let's go find anim type v1 transform. Okay, so this is on Gizmo. This is that. I'm looking for a specific function. I think it's like apply animation, which is what we're looking for. Okay, let's look for that. Apply animation. Okay, this is what we want. And looks like I just don't have it in here. Cool. Oh no, I do have it in here. Right there. Okay, so instead of doing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say obj svg object equals, and then we're going to go svg manager or svg interpolate between, we'll give it vg, and actually we don't need to do that anymore. Let me just fix this up real quickly too, because that's no longer necessary. Inside of here, we don't need a context. Fix that right there. We don't need a context. Nothing should break here. Nothing breaks there. Cool. Okay, let's go back into here or here. So we want to interpolate between some source and some destination t. Source is going to be our start, svg object start, and then the destination is going to be the other animation objects start, or I guess technically the other animation objects now. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to say dest object equals get anim object, or I guess get object, and we could just get const object. So we'll do that. We're going to do this, or I guess not this, animation as replacement dot destination. Okay, so we're gonna do this. Didn't mean to do that. Where'd I go? Here we go. We're gonna do this. That's const. We need to pass that as well. Okay, so we have our destination object. We're gonna pass that. So we go from source to dest, and we're gonna go t. And what is t? We have t right there. Cool. So this is basically how this is going to go. And why is this not happy? Oh, this should be destination object svg. So we're going to go from that to that. And I should say this is svg object star interpolated. And then we're going to go g memory free animation svg. I'm gonna have to change that to be not const anymore. I'm trying to think if I want to do this. Why? Okay, wait, how am I doing this? Oh, so we're, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we want to do g memory free our object, svg object. Okay, there we go. So we want to free that, and then we'll say this equals interpolated. Okay, and then let's just throw in some safety. So we'll just say if the destination object exists, which we can do by that. And then we can assert that svg object is not null pointer. Something went wrong if it is. Okay, so we do that. Now we should be safe to free and reassign. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's about it. So this is basically the flow. We are going to have to do a few other things too, right? So we also want to interpolate between our object positions and all that stuff, right? So we also want to say like object position equals cmath interpolate between our position. Well, I guess we want to pass it t, our position as it is now, and we want to go between the destination object's position, right? We want to do that. Oh, and I guess this should actually, instead of that, this should be svg object. Cool. So we'll do that too. Sorry. So we want to do that to our position. We also want to do our rotation. We probably want like a rotation interpolation too, because this isn't going to look good right now, but for now it doesn't matter. Rotation. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then we also want to do that for, I think, basically everything, like all of our properties. But I'm trying to think of scale. Yep. So we'll do that. Scale to that scale. And then fill color, we also want to do that. That's a U8 Vec4. That's not good. Maybe I do have that overloaded. I probably don't though. Oh, cool. I do have that. Cool. Okay, so we do that. Fill color. We also want to do our stroke color. Basically everything. And our stroke width. Okay, I think that's about everything. There might be other stuff. Let's just check real quick. Get everything out of the way while I can. So we have fill color, that's good. We have position, that's good. Scale, rotation, stroke color, stroke width. The object itself, the scale, that should be fine. Actually, let's just do this as well. So maybe we do want to do that. Okay. And that's the last thing. And I'm going to put a to do. Maybe not interpolate this. Okay. So we basically just interpolate all the properties, including the SVG itself. And then that should just kind of apply everything. And let's see if that goes well. What should happen is our square should turn into a circle. And then we're going to support objects with more vertices is the next step. Okay, so. Nothing's happening. That's great too. So yellow circle to blue square. We should see it like morphing, but it's not doing anything. Let's see if we're getting and hitting this breakpoint. We are not hitting this breakpoint at all, so that's good. Are we hitting here? We're not hitting this either. Why is that the case? This is apply animation. Apply animation. Okay, here we go. So we've got this. Yeah, so we should be hitting this at least. Okay, so we are hitting this. Let's see what's happening here. This is our square. Oh, wait, no, this isn't what we want to look like. Which animation are we looking at? Oh, okay, that's this. Let's see what this is. So this is a create animation. Then we get another create animation. Create animation. Let's go here. Create. Let's remove that breakpoint. This is write in text. Move to, and then we should hit move to, let's do this one more time. Create. Create. Okay, so that would be our problem. We're not hitting this for some reason. Which is weird. I wonder if the type is just not in there or something. Let's go back into here real quick. I'm trying to think of where I want to go with this. Where is this getting called from? This is getting called from render. And if we look into here, animations, we have 8 animations. We have a create, write in, move to. Okay, so we do have a transform in here. That all looks fine. Okay, yeah. So that all looks fine. For some reason, we're just not hitting it, though. Let's see what's happening. Yeah, let's get out of here real quickly. So let's go back up to here. I want to get out of here. Let's go up to here. Okay, so which one are we on? We are on write in text. That goes through here. Then we go, this is move to. And we should hit move to, let's see, we get move to transform. Okay, here we go. So we hit the transform. Frame start is 521. Current frame is 657. Okay, so that's fine. Animation is not complete. Okay, so we skip that. Then we go into here, apply animation. Okay, so we go into here. Ah, that's what's happening. So it doesn't have any animation object IDs. So if we get this, one thing I'm gonna check. So we're gonna say if this should, let's see, I have that defined in here. We have a function to check this stuff. Yes, should display animation objects. So let's go ahead and check that. Should display, make that const because it is const. And let's go back to where we were. So if we should, then we should have animation objects do this. Otherwise, if we don't, we're not going to have any animation objects and we're never going to hit this. So otherwise, what we want to do is say apply animation to OBJ. And I'm going to just say, let's give it this null t animation, which is this. Okay, right? And I also want to ease t. So let's do that too. T equals interpolate, or actually we're going to do our easing function. Okay, and then we pass that in. Cool. So then we go down to here. What's going to happen when we get into here? I'm just going to have to go ahead and say anim object star source. And let's just do this. All right, so that should take care of that. And we just want to make sure both of those exist. And then we're just going to change this to source object. And actually, let's do that. And then let's just change all of this. And that should be SVG object. I don't know why IntelliSense is being so weird right now. Visual Studio updated and it apparently broke itself. Let's fix all of that. Fix that. Okay, and we should be good there. So I think that was our problem. Let's try this again. Hopefully everything works. Once we start running here in a second. All right, there we go. So we hit this. Oh, of course we did, because we need to make sure that is also like that. Cool. So let's try this again. And now we get a different assertion. Tried to reallocate a block of memory that was not allocated. Cool. What happened there? It says we ran out of RAM. That definitely didn't happen. Begin contour. So this happened here. I believe, okay, I know exactly what that happened now. So let's go back into interpolate here. Yes, so we have res. What I need to do is say res equals SVG, create default. Forgot to do that. So that should just initialize it with some appropriate values and we should be good there. Okay, so now we get this. Okay, so our circle disappears. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What should happen is we should start to see it morph into this guy. And now this raises an interesting question. As it morphs into this guy, should this guy just disappear? I'm not quite sure what should happen there. So he should probably fade out while he kind of transitions into that. I'm trying to think if that's what I want to happen. And I guess, yeah. So typically, I guess this is kind of something I need to think about too. Typically, what's actually the use case for this is not something that's visible on the screen. So this would be invisible. And then this would be like this object transforming into something that's not actually active. So this is a little bit of a weird use case, but let's just fix it for now. So clearly it's not working. Let's just see what's going on in here. So they should have the same number of contours, same number of curves. This is the simplest case. So we do get into here. We do create this. This is all fine. Oh, and you know what's happening? It's because I'm not rendering it. I do not need to debug any further. So basically we apply animations, and then here when we actually render our objects. Yeah, when we render our objects, this is basically where we should end up. And I guess one of the last things that I'm missing, but I don't think this should matter. But let's try it anyways real quickly. So if I go back into here, interpolate is what I want to look for. Okay, here we go. So if we go back into here, let's also just say source object % created. Not getting IntelliSense for some reason. That's nice. Okay, so % created equals 1. Let's try that. Let's continue here. Nope, still not seeing anything. Let's see what we're getting, if something weird is going on there. I wonder if it's just writing garbage value somewhere. Let's see. Let's hop into here. And I'm just going to jump to the end of this function. So we jump out of there. Okay, so position, that looks sensible. Rotation looks sensible. Scale 1, that's fine. Fill color 162, 186, 144, that looks fine too. Stroke color, yep, that looks good. That looks fine. And that looks fine too. Okay, so that all looked okay. So I'm wondering what's going on there. Let's hop down into here. So this is, let's look for our yellow circle, which is the one that should have had the changes applied to it. So we get square. Circle, is this the yellow circle? Let's just check real quickly. This is just circle. So I think it's the next one. Nope. There we go. I think it's this one. Yellow circle. Okay, so we go into here. Okay, we jump down to here. We go into here. Yeah, so this all looks fine. Oh, you know what it is? I bet you, yep, that's 0, that's 0. Okay, so I'm missing one last step. This is signs of a bad API on my part. So one last step that I need to do is say res calculate approximate perimeter and res calculate bbox. I can't remember if this does the bounding box. It does not. Okay, so I think those were the last things I have to do. Let's see if this works. And I might have to normalize it too. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so we got that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's morphing. Look at that. Cool. So look at that. It morphs from one to the other, and we get every in-between stage. Now, the question is, as it's morphing, I have a feeling this should probably be fading out. Let's just see that in real time. Look at that morph. That's amazing, right? Okay, so we've got one thing at least. And this should definitely fade out as we're going through that. Let's just try this. If we tried to do that with the hello world object, it's going to completely break because we don't have all of the vertices. Like, we don't have support for more complex vertices. I think I might actually save that for a little bit later. For now, though, let's just fade out the second object as that one is morphing into it. That should have just stopped. That was weird. But yeah, let's do that. And I think that's probably like a good stopping point for this. So if we go back into here, when we interpolate, if I can type right, there we go. When we interpolate, what we also want to do is just fade out the destination object. Fade out dest object. This is not going to be const. I don't know why IntelliSense is being so horrible. That's what I get for updating. I was like, I probably shouldn't update Visual Studio, but you know what? I'm going to trust them, and that was a mistake. Should not have trusted them. Okay, so dest object, we're just going to say dest object. We want to do our fill color equals cmath interpolate. Let's do t dest object fill color. So we're going to interpolate between that and 0, which is just going to be 0, 0, 0, 0. So we're just going to fade out to black. And actually, I probably want to do that. I hate how wordy this is, but that way we just fade out. Okay, so let's just go ahead and drop this guy to a new line. Yeah, so basically we're gonna go interpolate from the fill color now to the same color just with the 0 alpha. That should be B. That way the color doesn't change, it just fades out. And then we also want to do the same thing for our stroke color. So do the same thing here. Did I spell interpolate wrong? No. Dest object stroke color. And then a U8 vec4 dest object stroke color.r G B and 0 is our destination. Cool. So that should fade it out as that guy goes and morphs into it. Another option that I could do is like have them meet in the middle, right? Where they kind of join together. That might look cool. Maybe I'll experiment with it. There we go. Yeah. So he kind of fades out. He morphs into him. Should they meet in the middle? Should we end up with something like this? No, that doesn't make sense, right? We're replacing the yellow circle, right? Yeah, so what this does is it's replacing the yellow circle with the blue square, right? We're replacing to this. So I guess this does make sense because we want to morph him into that. And so what's the more traditional kind of scenario though? It's not actually going to be this. The more traditional scenario is going to be something like where we have a square that's not actually active, right? So I'm going to just drag that here. So we have this, let's call this our, we will call this our green square. And we're going to give this guy a fill color of green, kind of greenish there. And this is actually the more common scenario. Yeah, where he kind of just morphs into this square that's just suddenly appeared. And I do like that. And actually, we can even change this up even more, where we basically have the same positions. It just kind of morphs. Right? We just kind of change like that. I do like this a lot more. Let's just copy that position real quickly. So that's, do that, copy there. Let's see, do that, copy there. And that should be fine. Okay. Yeah, so basically where we just do this. And then let's just lastly change this green square. I want to change the color slightly. There you go, match that guy a little bit better. And let's just change his side length, which is here. Make that a little bit smaller. Yeah. So basically this is what we want to happen, right? This is the common scenario. We just morph like that. Oh, cool. Oh, and this is so cool too. This is awesome. So uncreate. Sorry, this got me excited. So this is the emerging, this is really cool. So this is emergent behavior that I did not expect would happen. So what's happened here? I replaced the yellow circle with this green square. Now this uncreate, right? Let's take a look at what this happens. This uncreates our yellow circle, our blue square, and our red square. There is no yellow circle on the screen now, but since we've replaced it with this green square, the yellow circle is the green square now. And so this uncreate is acting on that, right? If I take the yellow circle out of here, it stays up there. So that's just really cool. If I were to uncreate the green square, that does nothing because we haven't actually, yeah, okay, and that makes sense because the green square never actually became active. What happened, and maybe, okay. So I guess this is a question we should answer. Should this actually be the green square now? Is the yellow circle now gone and it is the green square? I guess is the question. Yeah, I think that's a good question too. Let's do that real quick because that makes a lot more sense to me. That was cool though because the yellow circle actually did become the green square. So very cool stuff to me at least. I don't know. This isn't good. Lots of memory leaks. I was leaking memory like crazy. Where is this coming from? Let's just see that real quick. So SVG line 210 and 206. Where is that coming from? Let's just close that down. SVG line 210 and 206. I have a feeling I know where it's coming from, but let's just verify. It's a good thing I verified because I was wrong. So 210, 206. We're coming from here. Oh, you know what it is? So basically I just need to go when I free it inside of here. Yeah, so I'm freeing the SVG object here, but I never actually freed the object. So what I needed to say is source object, SVG object, free. And then I need to do that, just delete the old one. Let's go, let's just move all of this up to where we actually interpolate it. Right, and then interpolate other properties. Okay, so last thing we want to do here is once the interpolation completes, yeah, I'm trying to think. Once the interpolation completes, what we basically want to say is if t is greater than or equal to 1, source object status equals and I wish my IntelliSense worked, but it's not working. Anim object status inactive. Anim object status inactive, right? So then that, and then dest object status equals status active. That's what we want to do. Yeah, because once the animation is complete, we've replaced it. Now it's that new object that actually lives, and that should fix that bug we had, and we should have that memory leak fixed as well. So, and it's not working yet, so that's not good. So basically it's not staying active, right? So you can see as soon as we go here, we blip out and then it's not active. I think that's because, let's see what's happening here. So we go, we update all of these. We apply any changes. We see if the animation is complete. If the animation is complete, I go and set all of the other objects to active. Otherwise, it's animating. Otherwise, we apply the animation. Okay, so when I apply the animation, it should set the object status for me, which means then once we got down to here, it should be active at that point. Let's just check. Okay, so that clamps it to that. Let's just put a breakpoint here real quick and see what happens. So we hit this breakpoint. T is 1. Crap. I just jumped out of that. Let's just go down to our objects now. So T was 1. Let's just go down to here. Let's see our objects. 6. We've got 6 of them. We have a square down here. What is its status? It should be active now, but I don't think it will be. Where is that status? It's down here somewhere. Somewhere over here. There we go. Active. Okay, no. So the status is active. Okay. So let's see. This is our square. We need to go to the 6th object, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was our circle. 6. This is the square. If we go into here, we go down here. Okay, yeah. So we jumped into here because it's a square. Percent created. It's not initialized properly. Okay, so that was kind of the last thing that I had to do. I wonder why it wasn't properly set too. So this is a bug. Wait, no, it's not. So this goes through the objects. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess this kind of is a bug. Percent created, I should just initialize that to 0. Just one thing that I forgot to do. Okay, so that's fine. I'm just forgetting to do one thing then in here, which is after we interpolate, we just need to say dest object percent created is 1. Okay, and I think that's the last thing we were missing there. Let's see if this works now. And let's remove that breakpoint. Nope, still don't see anything. Okay, so it still disappears. Why are you doing this to me? You should just be done. Okay, we're very close though. So we go into here, we apply it, we go through, we do all this stuff, we set all that up properly. Yep, that's good, that's good. Oh, okay, it's because we faded it out here. I see. So I guess what we should do here too is we basically have all this stuff. Okay, we should basically go here and say like if t is less than 1, and then we're going to go ahead and interpolate everything. Otherwise, if t is greater than or equal to 1, which should be just the else clause, we're just going to do this where we basically set the old object to inactive, the new object to active. We set this. That way, none of the properties should be changed, and it should just all update properly, and this should be it. We should be good now. And we are. There we go. So now we have it active, and if we go through here, the uncreate is uncreating the green square, which is actually happening now, as we can see here. Okay, cool. So what we've basically done now is this replacement transform has literally replaced this yellow circle with that green square. And one thing that I can do to kind of reflect this a little bit better, which is something I meant to do earlier, is let's add one more kind of helpful hint to us. So right here, this green square is inactive, and I want that to be visible immediately when I look up here. So I want inactive objects to be grayed out a little bit, the text, so that you know, oh, this object isn't actually visible in the scene hierarchy. So let's go ahead and do that inside of our timeline, where handle anim object inspector. Actually, no, I'm in the wrong thing. This is in the scene hierarchy. Scene hierarchy window, that's what I want. Is it? Yes, this is what I want, the panel. So when we are drawing our object names, name, where is our names? That's a name, that's a name. That's a name. That's not what the name. There we go. Okay. So when we do the names, we basically want to set this. So we have next anim object. Status. Okay. So we want to get the status, or actually of our anim object right here. We want to get the status of our object. We want to say if anim object status equals anim object status inactive. And we could actually like do a couple things. So if it's animating, we can do it in orange. If it's inactive, it's gray. Yeah, so on and so forth. Oh, and this should be a dot. That would help. So if it's inactive, we're going to say I'm GUI push color, push style color IamGUI text, or I guess color text. And we're going to do colors neutral. I think 6 was probably going to be good. Actually, I think we're probably going to want to do like 3. And I need to go ahead and include that. So let's go ahead and go include core colors. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's go back here. So if we're there, we're going to do that. Otherwise, if animObject.status equals status animating, we're going to do like an orange. And I might change this. I don't know. We're just playing around. Let's see what happens. IamGUI color text. Colors. We're going to do our yellow, and we'll do yellow 1. Okay, and let's actually, I think 2 should probably be enough to kind of indicate. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and push style color neutral 0, which should just be white, or at least the brightest gray that I have. That way, after we do this guy, is this correct? Wait a second. Yes. Okay, so that way after we do the tree node, we can just say IamGUI pop style color, pop style color for tree node text. And so now if we go back into here, we should kind of see, okay, yeah, we do. I need to make that a little bit darker. So, and we're not getting animating. Huh, I gotta fix that very quickly. Let's do that real quickly. So if we go into Animation Manager, apply animation. So if it's active or it's animating, okay, yeah, so we basically say if the animation is complete, it's active, otherwise it's animating. Okay, so I do set it there. Oh, but I also need to set, I see. So instead of doing it in here, what I'm actually gonna do, yeah, instead of doing that here, I'm gonna let apply animation take care of that. So if we go back into here, yes, let's do this. So if we do this, this is easy. We can just say animObject is, or status equals animObject status animating, right? So I should probably do that after I check to see if it's a null pointer. And actually, let's just do equals. Instead of that, we'll say equals t is greater than or equal to 1. That's otherwise active. And let's just do that. Okay, so it's animating if we have not completed yet. Otherwise, it is active. And same thing down here, except we're gonna kind of have to offload that down here. I don't really like this. We're gonna have to figure out a better way to do this. Maybe I'll figure that out in just a second. But for now, this should be fine. We'll just say source object status equals. Oh, that's cool. It even gives me like the full, that's pretty cool. Animating, and then we also want to do dest object. Okay, so they're both animating, then it switches inactive to active, all that stuff. Cool, so let's see if we get our text highlighted, the correct colors, and that should be pretty good. Ah, so we get them all yellow, but this one goes from gray to yellow. That's kind of good. And then we go back to gray. So I guess it's just never finishing. We're never getting that 1.0f. Let's go very quickly back into here. Go back into here. Okay. Oh, that should be start T, or interpolated T is what I should be checking down here instead of T. Okay, so we're doing that because that's what we're passing there. Now, if we go back in, it should appropriately update. I might tweak those colors though. Cool, so now we kind of get a visual, right? So these are, well, no, that's not right still. That shouldn't be that way. Yeah, they should all be yellow there for sure because they are in the middle of animating. If we go back to here, that's correct at least. And then once we go here, green square is gray, which is very hard to see. These are, none of those were, oh, I have it reversed, don't I? Yes, I am stupid. If interpolate is less than 1, we're in the middle of animating. Otherwise, it's done animating and it is now active. And I should actually fix that up a little bit more too, because certain animations might make an object active to inactive, which is something we want to switch. Okay, cool. So now you can kind of see we get a visual over here. It's yellow if they're in the middle of animating. This one is gray, but it's really hard to tell that. So let's actually make that gray a little bit darker. Let's go up here. I'm going to go down to a 3, maybe a 4. We'll try a 4 out. And I'm going to make that yellow a little bit brighter. So we'll do that as a 0 so that we hopefully get a little bit brighter yellow. And that's a little too bright. Okay, I might want to change that again. This is adequate. So that gray is pretty clear that that is not active, which makes sense. And then once we go here, they're animating. And then now the yellow circle is inactive. Cool. I really like that. That is helpful to me. Let's try red. I don't like red because that has a negative connotation. Let's do green for in the middle of animating whatever. I might do green 0. We'll see. Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. So yeah, so we see we go green square is inactive because it has not been replaced by that yellow square yet. We go here. Now the yellow circle is inactive. When we're in the middle of animating, they are both kind of in between state. Yeah, I really like that. Makes it very clear what's happening as you're going through. If you're looking at your scene hierarchy, you can kind of tell, hey, this is kind of what's going on here. One last thing I want to do is let's move that right there. Let's move this guy right in the same place too. Actually, I don't know. We'll put it down here, I guess. So if we do this now and we go ahead and watch our animation, we can see this morph into a different object. I don't like how grainy that is. I'm going to have to fix that because for some reason it's not getting the appropriate value there. At least I don't think. Yeah, so if we check out that yellow circle, the SVG scale I think is probably too low. Let's bump that up to 200. That looks better. Cool. And then it goes down to 50. That's why it's not going back. We don't have an SVG object start. So I definitely should not be changing that. Let's go back over to here. Let's see. Where did we do that? It was in here. Interpolate. That was down here. Yep, and I added to do, maybe not do this, or come up with SVG scale start. So scales can be reset. That's something I'll have to do. For now, I'll just leave that as that. So we shouldn't have that problem. And now if we go back, do this again. Let's just bump up the resolution on this guy back to a 200. Let me see what this guy is. This one's at 150. Okay, let's actually just leave this at 150 then. That's good. So now we go there, it's fine either way. Cool. Last final thing, I still don't like the position of this. We're gonna go ahead and I guess just move it right there. That's fine with me. And then green square will also go here. Yeah, that kind of works out. Okay, so now we go and we play this and everything should kind of work out. Yeah, that looks good. And then this should morph. And we get a morph. It takes a little bit too long in my opinion, so let's go ahead. We will decrease that. I need to fix the text so that the text actually reflects that. Nice, I do like that. Let's see, what is my, I have it cubic. Let's change that to exponential because I think, yeah, that looks kind of nice. Snappy, right? We got yeah, a little bit of a snap there. Cool. That's pretty nice in my opinion. I think this stream we've actually completed more than I have most other streams. I did say we would serialize the data for this editor view.
we will save that for another stream, or I'll just do it in my off time. But I'm very happy with the progress we made. I said we would get morphing SVGs. We kind of did. I didn't do the more complex morphing yet. That is to come. But we did add some other cool features and stuff, and I'm very happy with the way this is turning out. So thank you guys for watching the stream, and I'll probably see you next week on Saturday at 8 in the morning CST. Possibly it might be Friday night again then. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time.